AITA for bringing receipts after my ex claimed I abandoned our kids? My name is Samuel. I'm 42, divorced, and trying to raise 2 kids with someone who treats every custody exchange like it's a chess match. I'm not a perfect dad. I forget where I put my keys at least 2 times a week. I've burned frozen pizza, and I still can't braid my daughter's hair without making it look like a rope that lost a fight. But I know my kids. I know Harper gets quiet when she's hungry, so I keep granola bars in the glove box. I know Owen changes obsessions every few months, but dinosaurs always circle back around. I know Harper hates the seams in certain socks. I know Owen sleeps better with the closet light cracked open. I know their teachers' names, their favorite cereals, who needs the blue water bottle, and who will refuse to drink out of anything with a weird plastic smell. So when people started looking at me like I was some weekend dad who forgot he had children, it didn't just make me angry. It made me feel like someone was slowly erasing me while I stood there watching. Melissa and I had been divorced for 3 years. Our marriage ended badly, but not in the dramatic screaming across the yard kind of way. It was more like years of resentment, silence, sharp comments in the kitchen, and finally both of us admitting that staying married was making us worse people. When we split, I promised myself I would not make the kids carry it. Our custody agreement was clear. I had alternating weekends, a weeknight dinner, holiday rotation, school involvement, and the usual language about notifying each other of schedule changes. I paid child support through automatic transfer. I kept receipts for school supplies, dentist copays, field trip fees, soccer registration, whatever came up. I didn't make a big show of it. I just paid what I was supposed to pay and tried to stay useful. At first, co-parenting with Melissa was tense but manageable. We weren't friends, but we could stand on opposite sides of a school hallway and be polite. We could both clap when Harper walked across the cafeteria stage in her spring concert. We could sit 3 rows apart at Owen's school assembly and not turn it into a scene. I considered that a win. I never wanted Harper and Owen to feel like they were being passed between enemy camps. That was why I said yes the first few times Melissa asked to switch things around. The first time, she texted me on a Thursday. Can you take them Sunday morning instead of Friday? My aunt is having everyone over Saturday. I stared at the message for a minute because it was technically my weekend, but it sounded harmless. Family event. One night. No big deal. I wrote back, that's fine. Just send me the new pickup time. She replied, can you not make this difficult for once? I remember sitting at my kitchen table with a half-empty mug of coffee and thinking, there it is. That little twist she always did, where even agreeing with her somehow meant I was the problem. Still, I let it go. Sunday at 10. I wrote. She sent back a thumbs up. That was how it started. Small things that sounded reasonable enough that pushing back made me look petty. Owen had a cough. Harper had a sleepover she forgot to mention. Melissa's car was blocked in. The kids were tired. Her mother had planned something. There was a birthday party. There was a last-minute school project. There was always something. And every time I hesitated, Melissa framed it like I was choosing rules over the kids. They're not luggage, Samuel. I thought you cared about their feelings. Why do you always make everything about your time? So I tried to be flexible. I told myself flexibility was what good co-parenting looked like. I didn't want Harper or Owen hearing us argue in the driveway over backpacks and booster seats. But then the cancellations started getting closer and closer to pickup time. One Friday, I had Owen's booster seat buckled in, Harper's hoodie folded in the passenger seat because she had left it with me the week before, and a small bag of snacks on the floor. I pulled into Melissa's driveway at 5:55 p.m. Pickup was at 6. The porch light was off. I waited a few minutes, then texted, here. No answer. At 6:08, I knocked. No answer. At 6:13, my phone buzzed. They're not going. Harper is upset, and Owen has a cough. I looked at the dark front window. I could see the glow of the television inside. I called. No answer. I texted, let me talk to them for 2 minutes. Melissa replied, no, you already upset them. I sat in my car with the engine running, looking at the cupcakes Harper had asked me to buy for our movie night. She liked the ones with too much frosting, the kind that stained your teeth blue. I wrote, I am here at the scheduled time. I am available for my parenting weekend. She answered, stop making this about you. I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to pound on the door. I didn't want the neighbors watching. I didn't want my kids seeing police lights because their parents couldn't handle a Friday exchange. So I drove home. That night, around 8:30, I got a voicemail from Melissa's phone. I almost didn't listen because I assumed it was her telling me I had traumatized everyone by showing up on time. But it was Harper. Her voice was soft and crackly, like she was trying not to be heard. "Dad, Mom said you didn't want us this weekend because you had other stuff. Did we do something wrong?" I hadn't even gone inside yet. I was still sitting in my parked car, my hand on the steering wheel. I remember the dashboard light glowing blue and the bag of snacks still sitting on the floor. I played the voicemail again. Then I played it a third time. That was the first moment I understood this was not just Melissa being difficult with the schedule. She was changing the story. I called Harper back. Melissa didn't answer. I texted, "Please have Harper call me." She left a voicemail that worries me. Melissa wrote, "She's asleep. Maybe don't disappoint her, and she won't be upset." I typed about 5 different responses and deleted all of them. Every version sounded angry. Every version gave Melissa something to screenshot. Finally, I wrote, "I was there for pickup at 6 o'clock as scheduled. I love them and want my parenting time." No reply. After that, things got worse fast. In the family group chat, Melissa started making little jokes. Not direct enough for me to call out without looking defensive, but sharp enough that everyone understood the message. "Melissa, guess who suddenly remembered he has kids this weekend?" Lacey, her sister, replied with a laughing emoji. Diane, Melissa's mother, wrote, "Children need stability." I stared at those messages while standing in the cereal aisle at the grocery store. I had a box of Owen's favorite cereal in my hand. I remember putting it back and then grabbing it again because he still liked it, whether he was allowed to come over or not. I wrote, "I was at the pickup location at 6 o'clock as scheduled." Lacey replied, "Don't start drama, Sam." Melissa wrote, "Exactly. Consistency." I wanted to throw my phone into the freezer section. Instead, I put it in my pocket and finished shopping. At school events, I started feeling the shift too. One parent at pickup gave me a careful smile and said, "It's good you're here. Melissa said weekends have been hard for you." I said, "Weekends are not hard for me." She looked embarrassed and walked away. At Harper's spring concert, Diane stood beside me near the cafeteria doors while kids in sparkly cardigans and dress shoes ran around with paper programs in their hands. Harper kept glancing over at us, probably making sure we weren't fighting. Diane said quietly, "Kids need consistency, Samuel." I looked at her. "I agree. More than you know." She sighed like I had disappointed her again. Melissa is the one dealing with the tears. I almost told her everything right there. I almost pulled out my phone and played Harper's voicemail. But Harper was 20 feet away, holding a little paper flower and searching my face, and I couldn't do it. So I swallowed it. That was my mistake for too long. I thought silence was protecting the kids. I thought if I didn't argue, if I didn't defend myself too loudly, they would be spared. But silence left Melissa with the only version anyone heard. The strange thing was, Melissa was careful. Too careful. Whenever she wanted to cancel my time, she called. If I didn't answer, she left vague voicemails like, "Call me about this weekend," or "We need to talk about the kids." But after the weekend passed, she would text things like, "The kids cried because of you again," or "You can't keep skipping time and then pretending you're involved." She wanted the accusation in writing, but not the cancellation. Once I noticed it, I couldn't unsee it. The next time she called 2 hours before pickup, I let it go to voicemail. Then I texted, "Please put any scheduled changes in writing." She called again. I didn't answer. She texted, "Owen doesn't feel good. Don't come." I replied, "Please confirm in writing that you are refusing the scheduled exchange." A minute later, she wrote, "Why are you being so legal about everything?" I sat at my kitchen counter, staring at those words. "Because you're making me," I thought. But I didn't type that. I wrote, "I'm available for my scheduled parenting time. I'll be at pickup at 6 o'clock. She sent back, "They don't want to go when you make everything tense." At 6 o'clock, I was in the driveway again. No kids. No bags. No door opening. Just the porch light and my own reflection in the window. I took a photo of myself in the car with the clock visible. It felt ridiculous. It felt like something a paranoid person would do. Then I emailed Melissa. Per our custody agreement, I arrived for pickup at 6 p.m. You declined to release the children by text at 4:12 p.m. I remain available for my scheduled parenting time. She did not reply, but 20 minutes later she posted in the group chat. "Melissa, some people care more about making a point than how the kids feel." Diane sent a sad face. Lacey wrote, "Sorry you're dealing with this." I didn't respond. A few days later, the first crack in Melissa's story showed up by accident. It happened in the family group chat. I was making dinner, one of those lazy meals where you pretend scrambled eggs and toast count as balanced because there are grapes on the plate. My phone lit up on the counter. Lacey had sent a screenshot. I only saw the lock screen preview before it disappeared. If the kids stop expecting him every other weekend, it'll be easier to show the schedule isn't working. Then the message was deleted. A second later, Lacey wrote, "Wrong chat." My pulse went cold. I opened the chat, but the screenshot was gone. All that remained was Lacey's "wrong chat," and then nothing. No one responded for almost 10 minutes. Then Melissa wrote, "Anyway, Owen needs blue napkins for his party if anyone finds them." Like nothing had happened. I stood there with a spatula in my hand, eggs drying in the pan, trying to decide if I had really seen what I thought I saw. I had. The next morning, I called a family law attorney named Mr. Callahan. I had avoided calling an attorney because I didn't want to escalate things. Court felt like failure. It felt like admitting that Melissa and I couldn't even be trusted to exchange 2 children without paperwork and witnesses. Mr. Callahan did not care about my feelings. His office smelled like coffee and printer toner. He was in his 50s, blunt, and looked at my printed custody agreement like he had seen the same story 100 times. I told him everything. The canceled weekends. The phone calls. The group chat jokes. Harper's voicemail. The screenshot preview. He listened without much expression, then said, "Stop arguing on feelings. Courts look at records." I rubbed my face. "I don't want to hurt my kids." "Then stop letting her rewrite why you're gone." That shut me up. He leaned back and tapped the custody agreement with one finger. "If she cancels verbally, summarize it in writing. If she refuses the exchange, document it. Show up on time. Stay calm. Do not involve the children in the evidence. Do not send long emotional messages. Short, clear, boring. Boring. Boring is good," he said. "Boring makes you look stable." I almost laughed, but I was too tired. He continued, "Pay through traceable methods. No cash. No vague extra money. If she asks for school expenses, ask for the invoice and pay your portion directly. If she claims the children won't come, ask for confirmation in writing. Do not let her turn phone calls into your word against hers." I asked, "You think she's building something?" He looked at me like the answer was obvious. "I think she already has." So I changed everything. I stopped answering scheduled calls. I texted, put it in writing. I saved every message. I printed child support payment confirmations from the portal. I saved school emails, sign-up links, teacher conference confirmations, screenshots of calendar invites, receipts from shoes and backpacks and field trips. Every Friday I was supposed to have the kids. I showed up. If they came out, great. If they didn't, I took a time-stamped photo from the car, wrote one email, and went home. Per the custody agreement, I arrived at 6 p.m. for my scheduled parenting time. You did not release Harper and Owen. I remain available. No insults. No begging. No paragraphs explaining why she was wrong. Melissa hated it. "You're being weird," she texted. I wrote, "I'm following the written agreement. You're trying to make me look bad. I'm documenting missed exchanges. They're going to hate how cold you are. I'm not discussing adult conflict with the kids." That last one made her furious. A week later, she tried a different angle. She texted, "Harper needs money for clothes. Send $200. I wrote, "Send the receipt or invoice and I'll pay my portion directly." "So now you don't care if she goes without? Send the invoice. You used to at least pretend to care. I'll pay my portion directly." I could almost feel her rage through the phone. Melissa liked emotional fog. She liked making me defend myself until I sounded guilty. Short answers gave her nothing to grab. Then she made the mistake that changed everything. It was a Wednesday night. I was rinsing dishes when my phone buzzed with an email notification from Melissa. The subject line was blank. The email said, "I'm not saying he never pays. I'm saying the court doesn't need to know about the extra stuff if he can't even use his weekends. I've got enough dates now. If the kids are already used to not going, I don't see why the schedule should stay the same." I read it once. Then again. Then I took a screenshot. Less than a minute later, another email came through. Disregard. That was all. No explanation. No apology. Just disregard. Like she had accidentally sent me a grocery list. My whole body went still. Not because I was surprised anymore, but because the thing I had been afraid to say out loud was now sitting in my inbox. She was not just canceling my weekends because she was bitter or disorganized or overwhelmed. She was creating a pattern. Cancel my time. Tell the kids I didn't want them. Tell the adults I was unreliable. Save the dates. Ask the court to reduce my custody. Ask for more money. Look like the parent who had been carrying everything alone. I forwarded the email to Mr. Callahan. His reply came back 20 minutes later. Do not respond emotionally. Preserve the email. Continue documenting. So I did not call Melissa. I did not text. How could you? I did not ask why she was doing this to the kids. I already knew the answer, or at least enough of it. Control. Money. Image. Maybe anger. Maybe all of it. But knowing why didn't matter as much as stopping it. Owen's 8th birthday was the following weekend. Melissa had rented a room at one of those party places with long folding tables, bright balloons, pizza boxes stacked near the counter, and a play area where kids could run themselves sweaty in under 10 minutes. I had asked weeks earlier if I could come early to help set up. She wrote, "Just don't make it about you." I replied, "I'll be there at 1 o'clock with Owen's gift." Owen had been talking for months about a dinosaur model kit he saw online. Not a baby toy, but one of those kits with tiny pieces and instructions that make adults question their life choices. He wanted the one with the T-Rex skeleton. I bought it, wrapped it in green paper, and wrote, "For building together" on the tag. Aaron, my older cousin, came with me. I hadn't planned to bring backup, but after everything, Mr. Callahan had suggested having another adult around whenever possible. Aaron knew the basics. He also knew me well enough to recognize when I was about 2 seconds from saying something I would regret. On the drive there, he looked at me from the passenger seat and said, "You're not going to blow up." I know. I'm serious. I know. He glanced at the folder in the back seat. "And you're not bringing that out unless she opens the door." I kept my eyes on the road. "She always opens the door." Aaron exhaled. "Just remember why you're there. For Owen. And Harper. And Harper." When we walked into the party room, Owen saw me before anyone else did. "You came," he yelled, sprinting across the room with his socks sliding on the floor. I crouched just in time for him to crash into me. He smelled like frosting and little kid sweat. "I told you I would," I said. He pulled back and looked at the present. "Is that it? Maybe. Can we build the dinosaur tonight? We'll see what your mom has planned, buddy." His smile flickered for half a second, like he had already learned that plans could change depending on which adult was speaking. Then Harper came over. She hugged me around the waist and held on longer than usual. She was 10, right at that age where she wanted to be grown and still needed to be someone's kid. "I wasn't sure you'd come," she whispered. The words hit me so hard I almost lost my breath. I bent down a little and said, "I told you I would. Mom said maybe you had plans." "I had plans," I said. "This." She looked at me for a second, like she wanted to believe it, but didn't know if she was allowed to. I kissed the top of her head and said, "Go have fun. I'm not going anywhere." For the first hour, I kept my focus on the kids. I helped tape a fallen streamer back to the wall. I handed out juice boxes. I wiped frosting off Harper's sleeve when she brushed against a cupcake. I helped Owen find the dinosaur napkins Melissa had apparently made half the family search for. Melissa floated around the room like the perfect host, smiling at parents, laughing with Lacey near the counter, touching Diane's arm while talking in that soft, exhausted voice she used when she wanted people to see her as the long-suffering one. Every so often, I caught someone looking at me, not openly hostile, just curious, measuring. Aaron stayed near the wall with a paper cup of soda, watching. When it was time for cake, everyone gathered around the long table. Owen stood in front of the candles, bouncing on his heels. Harper stood beside him, holding a paper plate. The kids were loud, excited, sticky, normal. I was standing a little behind them, close enough to see Owen's face when he made his wish. Melissa stood across the table with the cake knife. She looked up, smiled in front of the adults, and said, "At least you made it this time." The room changed. Not dramatically. No one gasped. No music stopped. But the adults heard it. A few people gave awkward little laughs. Lacey looked down at her plate. Diane's mouth tightened like Melissa had said something unfortunate, but understandable. Owen was still focused on his candles. Harper looked at me. That was the part that did it. Not Melissa's words. Harper's eyes. She was watching to see if I would explode. Or leave. Or prove whatever she had been told. I set my paper plate down. Quietly, I said, "Do you want me to keep pretending you didn't cancel my last 6 weekends with them?" The awkward laughter died. Melissa froze for half a second, then laughed like I had made an inappropriate joke. "Samuel, don't do this at a child's birthday party." I kept my voice low. "I'm not doing anything in front of the kids. I'm asking the adults you lied to whether they want the truth." Her smile sharpened. "You're ruining his birthday because your ego got bruised." I looked at Owen. He was arguing with a cousin about who got the corner piece of cake. He wasn't listening yet. I wanted to keep it that way. I said, "You brought it here." Melissa's eyes flicked toward Diane, then Lacey, then Aaron. She was calculating. I knew that look. Aaron stepped closer, not aggressive, just present. I walked to the side counter where I had set my bag and took out the folders. 3 plain folders. Nothing dramatic. No courtroom performance. Just paper. I handed one to Diane. "This is for you because you told me children need stability." Her face went pale before she even opened it. I handed one to Lacey. "This is for you because you told me not to start drama." Lacey didn't take it at first. Then Aaron said, "Take the folder." She did. I handed the last one to Aaron, even though he had already seen most of it. Melissa said, "This is insane." I looked at her. No. Insane was canceling my parenting time and telling our kids I didn't want them. Her face flushed. "That is not what happened." I nodded toward the folders. "Then it should be easy to explain." Diane opened hers first. Inside were printed texts, emails, calendar pages, payment confirmations, screenshots from the family group chat, a transcript of Harper's voicemail, not the audio, because I was not going to play my daughter's pain in a room full of adults. Copies of my emails after each refused exchange. The email Melissa had accidentally sent me. "I'm not asking anyone to take my word for it," I said. "That's why I brought yours." Melissa stepped toward Diane. "Mom, he's twisting things." Diane held up one page slightly, reading. Her lips pressed together. Lacey flipped through her folder faster, panic rising in her face. She found the page with the screenshot preview and the timeline of the deleted message. She said, "I didn't mean." Melissa snapped, "Don't." That one word told the room more than she meant it to. A couple of parents quietly moved their kids toward the play area. The children were still mostly distracted, thank God. The cousins were loud enough to cover a lot, and Aaron positioned himself between the adult conversation and the table like a human wall. Diane looked up at Melissa. "Did you tell me he barely pays anything?" Melissa's face changed again. "Mom, this isn't the time." Diane's voice was not loud, but it cut through the room. "Did you?" Melissa glanced at me. "He pays the minimum." I said, "Page 6. Diane turned to page 6. Automatic transfer confirmations. Extra medical payments. School supply receipts. A field trip payment. Half of Harper's dental bill. The shoes Melissa had texted me about. The invoice I paid directly after she asked for cash. Diane's hand shook a little. Melissa pointed at me. "You are embarrassing yourself." I said, "No, I'm done letting you embarrass me with lies." Her eyes got shiny then, but not in a sad way. In an angry way. She was losing control of the room, and she knew it. "You think this makes you look like a good father?" she said. "No," I said. "Showing up does. This just proves I tried." For a second, nobody spoke. Then Owen shouted, "Dad, cake." I turned immediately. "Coming, buddy." That was the end of the adult conversation for me. Melissa hissed, "We're not done." I said, "For today we are." I walked back to the kids' table, crouched beside Owen, and helped him balance a paper plate on his knees while he opened the dinosaur kit. His face lit up. "This is the one." "I know. You remembered." I smiled, even though my throat hurt. Of course I did. Harper sat close to me while Owen tore through wrapping paper. She looked toward the adults, then back at me. "Are you mad at Mom?" she asked quietly. I took a breath. "I'm not going to explain adult problems at your brother's birthday," I said. "Today is Owen's day." She studied me, then nodded. I wiped a bit of frosting from her sleeve with a napkin. "You okay?" She nodded again, but this time she leaned into my shoulder. That small lean felt like more of a victory than anything in the folders. I stayed until the party ended. I helped stack chairs. I threw away plates. I hugged Owen and told him we would build the dinosaurs soon. I told Harper I loved her and would see her at our next scheduled dinner. Owen asked, "For real?" "For real," I said. Melissa watched from across the room, silent. When Aaron and I got to the parking lot, He let out a long breath. I'm proud of you, he said. For what? Bringing folders to a kid's party. For not throwing them. I laughed once, tired and ugly. Then I went home and sent one email. Going forward, all communication about custody, schedule changes, expenses, and school matters will be through email or the co-parenting app. I will follow the written custody agreement unless a written change is mutually agreed upon. I will not discuss schedule changes by phone. Melissa replied 2 hours later. You're pathetic. I took a screenshot and did not answer. Mr. Callahan filed for enforcement of the custody schedule. He did not promise miracles. There was no dramatic moment where a judge slammed a gavel and handed me everything I wanted. Real life doesn't work like that, and anyone who says it does has not spent enough time around family court. But the court did take the pattern seriously. Melissa was ordered to comply with the existing agreement while the issue was reviewed. Exchanges had to be documented. Communication moved to a co-parenting app with read receipts. Schedule changes had to be written and agreed on. If a child was sick, she had to provide basic information and offer makeup time instead of simply canceling. It was not perfect. Melissa still found ways to be difficult. She sent clipped messages. She acted like the app was some cruel burden placed on her by my ego. She still tried little comments, but they didn't land the same way when every exchange had a record. The family changed too, but not into some warm group hug. Lacey stopped posting vague little jabs in the group chat. She barely posted at all for a while. Diane called me 2 weeks after the birthday party. I almost didn't answer, but I did. Her voice sounded smaller than usual. Samuel, she said. I only knew what I was told. I stood in my kitchen, looking at the refrigerator where Harper's old drawing of a lopsided cat was still held up by a magnet. I know, I said. I should have asked you. I didn't rush to make her feel better. Old Samuel would have. Old Samuel would have said, it's okay, even though it wasn't. Instead, I said, I wish you had. She was quiet for a moment. I'm sorry, she said. I believe that she meant it. I also knew an apology did not undo months of her looking at me like I was failing my children. Thank you, I said. That was all I had. My next scheduled weekend actually happened. I showed up at 6 o'clock. The kids came out with backpacks, jackets, school folders, and Owen carrying the dinosaur kit under one arm like it was made of gold. Harper paused by the car door and asked, Are we really going? We're really going, I said. Owen climbed into the back and said, Do I take my backpack or no? Yes, buddy. Backpack comes with you. Harper got in more slowly. Once I started driving, she looked out the window for a while, then said, I thought you didn't want weekends anymore. I kept both hands on the wheel. I always wanted my time with you, I said. Sometimes adults make decisions badly, and sometimes plans change, but it was never because I stopped wanting you. She was quiet. Then she asked, Are you going to fight with Mom forever? No, I said. I'm going to keep things in writing so there's less fighting. Owen interrupted from the back seat. Can writing make Mom not mad? I smiled a little, because that was such an Owen question. No, I said, but it helps adults remember what they agreed to. He seemed satisfied with that. That weekend, we built half the dinosaur kit, made pancakes too late in the morning, and watched a movie Harper pretended not to like, but did not leave the room during. I didn't make a speech. I didn't tell them their mother lied. I didn't show them folders, or emails, or court paperwork. I just showed up. And then I showed up again. And again. The damage did not disappear overnight. Harper still asked sometimes, Are you coming for real? Owen still wanted confirmation 2 or 3 times before a pickup. Trust, once someone shakes it, does not snap back like a rubber band. But it started coming back in small ways. Harper began leaving her hoodie in my car again, not because she forgot, but because she assumed she would be back. Owen asked if the dinosaur could stay at my place so we could keep building it next time. The words, next time, meant something again. As for Melissa, she lost the one thing she had counted on most, the ability to control the story through emotion alone. She could still be angry. She could still be difficult. But she could no longer cancel my time on a phone call, tell the kids I chose not to come, and then tell everyone else she was the only stable parent. There was a record now. And more importantly, there was a boundary. I used to think keeping quiet made me the better parent. I thought if I absorbed the lies, the kids would be spared conflict. But I learned there is a difference between not bad-mouthing the other parent and letting someone rewrite your place in your children's lives. I still don't speak badly about Melissa to Harper or Owen. I won't make them carry adult evidence in their little hands. When they ask hard questions, I answer carefully. I will always show up when I'm allowed to, I tell them. And if plans change, it won't be because I stopped loving you. That is the truth they needed from me. Not a perfect ending. Not a perfect co-parent. Not a perfect family. Just the truth, finally written down where no one could delete it. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.